The sound of breaking glass downstairs jolts me from my chemistry homework. Not the delicate tinkle of a dropped cup, but the violent crash of something being thrown. I know that sound too well lately. I want her gone by Friday. Frank's voice booms through the floorboards. I'm done playing nice about this. I'm 19, and I've learned to hold my breath during these conversations. My fingers curl around my pencil until my knuckles turn white, but I keep writing equations as if nothing's happening, as if my entire world isn't being dismantled, one argument at a time. She's my daughter, Mom says, her voice carrying that familiar tremor, the one that means she's already given up. We can't just throw her out. Your daughter. Frank spits the words like they're poison. Who's eating our food, taking up space, and bringing down the whole mood of this house? I've got a baby on the way, Sheila. A real family to think about. A real family. The words hit me like a physical blow. I've lived in this house since I was 4, long before Frank showed up with his perfect smile and empty promises. Now, at 7 months into Mom's pregnancy, he's finally showing his true colors. Linda said she'd take her, Mom offers weakly. Just until she finishes college. The pencil snaps in my grip. Aunt Linda's house. That woman runs her home like a military compound, complete with curfews and mandatory family dinners, where she lectures everyone about their life choices. Heavy footsteps thunder up the stairs. I barely have time to straighten up before my door flies open, banging against the wall. Frank fills the door frame, his face flushed red. Pack your bags, he says, not even looking at me directly. You're leaving Friday. This is my house too, I say, surprised by how steady my voice sounds. Grandmother left. Your grandmother left everything to your mother. Frank cuts me off. And your mother agrees with me, don't you, Sheila? Mom appears behind him, wringing her hands. Her eyes meet mine for a split second before darting away. It's just temporary, honey, until things settle down. Things? I stand up slowly. You mean until the baby comes? Until I'm completely erased from this family. Don't be dramatic, Frank scoffs. You're an adult now, time to stand on your own 2 feet. I look around my room, at the photos on the walls, the books on the shelves, the entire life I've built here. And if I refuse, Frank steps closer, lowering his voice. Then I'll have you removed, legally, your choice. Mom makes a small sound of protest, but she doesn't move to stop him. She never does anymore. I'll need more than 2 days, I say, fighting to keep my voice level, to pack everything. Take what you need for now. The rest can wait. Frank's tone suggests the rest might disappear if I don't move fast enough. Linda's expecting you Friday evening. They leave without another word, closing the door behind them. I sink onto my bed, my hands shaking as I pull out my phone and text Tina. It's happening. They're kicking me out. Her response comes quickly. OMG, what? Want me to come over? I stare at the message, thinking about Grandmother Margaret's last words to me before she died. Sometimes the best revenge is patience, dear. Watch, wait, and when the moment comes, strike true. I type back, no, I need to handle this myself. Standing up, I walk to my closet and pull out the small lockbox hidden behind my winter clothes. Inside is Grandmother's letter, the one I haven't shown anyone yet, the one that changes everything. You want me gone, Frank? I whisper to myself, running my fingers over the sealed envelope. Be careful what you wish for. Friday isn't going to go the way they expect. Not at all. Aunt Linda's house smells like artificial lavender and disappointment. She stands in her pristine foyer, clipboard in hand, as if I'm checking into a prison rather than moving in with family. Rule number 1, she says, tapping her pen against the paper. Curfew is 9 o'clock sharp. No exceptions. I shift my duffel bag on my shoulder, the weight of Grandmother's letter pressing against my hip through the hidden pocket. I have evening classes that end at 8:30. Then you'll need to run. Her lips twist into what might be a smile. Rule number 2, you'll participate in family dinner every evening at 6. That means being present and engaged, not hiding behind your phone. The clock on her wall ticks loudly in the silence as she continues down her list. Each rule feels like another bar in a cage. No visitors without prior approval, mandatory church attendance, weekly progress reports on my life goals. And of course, she adds, you'll contribute to household expenses. $300 monthly should cover it. My fingers curl into fists. Mom said, your mother isn't here. Linda's voice carries an edge sharp enough to cut. And frankly, given her poor judgment lately, I wouldn't put much stock in her promises. She leads me upstairs to what she calls my temporary accommodation. A narrow room that looks more like a closet with a window. The walls are bare, except for a cross above the single bed, and the desk barely has space for my laptop. Dinner's in 30 minutes, she announces. I expect you cleaned up and properly dressed. No jeans at the table. After she leaves, I pull out my phone to text Tina, but there's no signal. Of course, I move to the window and finally get one bar. In hell, send help. The response comes quickly. That bad? Before I can reply, Linda's voice carries up the stairs. Ariel, phone away and come help set the table. I stuff my phone in my pocket and head downstairs, where Linda's arranging plates with military precision. She hands me a stack of napkins without looking up. Your mother called while you were unpacking, she says casually. They're converting your old room into the nursery. Frank asked if you wanted any of your remaining things or if they should donate them. The napkins crumple in my grip. They can, and they are. She straightens a fork that was already perfectly aligned. It's time to accept your new reality, Ariel. This attitude of yours won't serve you here. I force myself to smooth out the napkins, placing them beside each plate while my mind races. They're erasing me, piece by piece, thinking I'll just accept it, like Mom accepts everything Frank does. Linda's husband, George, arrives home just before 6, barely acknowledging my presence, before taking his seat at the head of the table. Linda serves some kind of casserole that tastes like cardboard and expectations. So, George says between bites, Linda tells me you're studying chemistry? Yes, waste of time, he interrupts. Should be learning something practical, business maybe, or nursing, if you insist on science. Linda nods approvingly. I've been saying that. All those student loans, for what? To mix chemicals in a lab? Actually, I say, keeping my voice steady. Grandmother Margaret left money for my education. No loans needed. The silence that follows is deafening. Linda's fork scrapes against her plate with a sound like nails on a chalkboard. That's not possible, she says finally. Mother's estate was quite clear, was it? I meet her gaze across the table. Because grandmother told me lots of interesting things before she died. About the estate, about the family, about you. Linda's face pales slightly, but she recovers quickly. Well, clearly she was confused near the end. Now about your contribution to the household. I think I'll wait to discuss that until I've had a chance to review grandmother's paperwork, I say, watching her reaction carefully. All of it. She sets down her fork with a sharp click. Go to your room. We'll discuss your attitude in the morning. I stand, gathering my plate. Good night, Aunt Linda, Uncle George. Thank you for dinner. In my room, I finally pull out grandmother's letter, running my fingers over the seal. Not yet, I think. The timing isn't right, but soon, very soon. My phone buzzes. Another text from Tina. Need an escape plan? I smile as I type back, no, need a revenge plan. And I think I just found my first weakness to exploit. After 2 weeks of Linda's suffocating rules, I finally break the seal on grandmother's letter. My hands tremble as I read it in the pre-dawn darkness, using my phone's flashlight under the covers like a child with a forbidden book. The truth hits like a physical blow. Legal documents fall from the envelope. Adoption papers, property deeds, bank statements, my name over and over, not just as a beneficiary, but as Margaret's legally adopted daughter. A knock startles me. I shove everything under my pillow as Linda opens the door without waiting for a response. Why is your light on at 5 a.m.? She flicks on the overhead light. You're burning electricity I'm paying for. Actually, I say, heart pounding against my ribs, I think you'll find you're not paying for anything in this house. Her eyes narrow. Excuse me? Grandmother Margaret's name is still on all the utilities. And the mortgage. Isn't that strange? Linda's face does something complicated, like she's swallowing glass. You've been snooping. I've been investigating my inheritance. I pull out one of the documents. Did you know she adopted me? Legally. 3 years ago. The color drains from her face. That's impossible. She wouldn't. But she did. I stand up, finding strength in her uncertainty. And according to these papers, this house belongs to me. Linda snatches the document from my hand, scanning it frantically. These could be forged. You think you can just... Morning. A male voice calls from outside. Through the window, I see David, the next-door neighbor, collecting his newspaper. Linda freezes. David's a real estate lawyer, isn't he? I ask innocently. Maybe we should ask his opinion. This is ridiculous. Linda hisses, but her hands are shaking. You're just a child playing games. No, I'm Margaret's legally adopted daughter, and I have questions, like why you've been collecting rent from 3 tenants in grandmother's properties while telling Mom the buildings were empty. She takes a step back. How did you? I have her files, all of them, including the recordings. This is a bluff. I don't have recordings. But Linda's reaction tells me they exist somewhere. Her face goes from white to gray. What do you want? She whispers. First, breakfast. I'm thinking waffles. Then we'll discuss your new tenant, me, and my terms for keeping certain information private. You wouldn't dare expose. Try me. I meet her gaze steadily. Grandmother taught me a lot about patience and revenge. The sound of a car door makes us both turn. Through the window, I see Mom getting out of her SUV, one hand on her pregnant belly. Perfect timing, I say. Should we share the news about my adoption over breakfast? Linda grabs my arm, her nails digging in. Wait, just wait. We can discuss this privately, like you discussed things privately with Frank, convincing him that kicking me out was the only option. Her grip loosens in surprise. How did you? I know everything, Aunt Linda. Every scheme, every manipulation, every lie, another bluff. But her reaction confirms I'm hitting close to home. The question is, what are you willing to do to keep it all quiet? The doorbell rings. Linda looks like she might be sick. Better answer that, I say softly. And remember, I learned from the best about keeping secrets. Grandmother made sure of that. She backs away, clutching the adoption papers. This isn't over. No, I agree, watching her hurry downstairs. It's just beginning. I hear Mom's voice floating up from below, asking if I'm awake yet. Linda's response is too quiet to make out, but I can imagine her scrambling to maintain control. My phone buzzes. A text from Tina. Did you open it? I type back, yes, and it's better than we thought. Way better. The sound of Linda's forced cheerfulness drifts up the stairs as she invites Mom in for coffee. I smile, thinking of grandmother's words in the letter. Power isn't about having control, dear. It's about making others believe you do. Time to show them exactly how well I learned that lesson. David catches me at the mailbox, his lawyer's briefcase swinging casually at his side. Interesting morning at the Thompson house, he says, nodding toward Linda's, my property. Saw your mom leaving in quite a state. I sort through the mail, keeping my voice neutral. Family drama. Must be. Linda's been making calls all day, mostly to her bank, from what I could hear through the fence. He pauses, studying me. You know, I handled some of your grandmother Margaret's estate work. My fingers freeze on an envelope. Did you? Smart woman, Margaret, always 10 steps ahead. He pulls out a business card, writes something on the back. If you need those adoption papers reviewed, my office hours are listed here. The other number's my cell. I take the card, turning it over. There's a time written on the back, 3 p.m. Thanks, I say, understanding the invitation. I might take you up on that. Inside, Linda's pacing the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear. No, I need those records today. Yes, I understand it's irregular, but She spots me and ends the call abruptly. "Going somewhere?" she asks, eyeing my jacket. "Class." I hold up David's card. "And then a legal consultation." She sets the phone down with exaggerated care. "You really want to do this? Air all our dirty laundry?" "You mean your dirty laundry?" I lean against the door frame. "Like what really happened to grandmother's jewelry collection? The one you told Mom was stolen." Her face tightens. "You're playing a dangerous game." "No, I'm ending one. Your game." I check my phone. Mom's probably wondering about our interesting breakfast conversation. Should I fill her in on what we discussed? Wait, Linda moves to block my path. "What do you want? Money? The house? Name it." I study her desperate expression, remembering all the times she lorded her power over others. Over Mom, over me. "I want everything," I say softly. "Everything you took, everything you lied about, everything you thought you could get away with. You ungrateful little—" "Careful," I cut her off. "Remember who owns these walls now." The front door opens. George, returning early from work. Linda's eyes widen in panic. "Don't," she whispers. "He doesn't know about the properties, about the money I've been keeping from him." I finish. Imagine that, secrets in a marriage. George appears in the kitchen doorway, frowning at the tension. "Everything okay here?" "Perfect," I say brightly. "Aunt Linda and I were just discussing inheritance law. Did you know?" "Nothing important," Linda interrupts. "Ariel was leaving for class, weren't you?" I shoulder my bag, enjoying her discomfort. "We'll continue this later." "Oh, and I invited Mom over for dinner. Hope that's okay, since it is my house now." I leave them in the kitchen, Linda's frantic explanation fading behind me. Outside, I check the time. 2 hours until my meeting with David. Just enough time to visit the bank, where grandmother kept her safe deposit box. The key was hidden in the adoption papers, along with a note. "For when the truth becomes your weapon." My phone buzzes with a text from Mom. "Linda called. Said you're making strange claims. We need to talk." Another from Frank. "Stop causing trouble, or there will be consequences." And finally one from Tina. "Holy shit, they're freaking out. What did you do?" I smile, pocketing my phone. Without responding, let them stew in their uncertainty. Let them wonder what else I know, what evidence I have. Grandmother's voice echoes in my memory. "Patience, dear one. The best revenge isn't swift or violent. It's watching them destroy themselves with their own fears." I head toward the bank, my steps light with purpose. Linda's desperate face, Frank's threats, Mom's confusion, all pieces falling into place. But David's involvement adds a wild card I hadn't expected. What else did grandmother tell him? What other surprises wait in that safe deposit box? The weight of the key in my pocket feels like possibility, like power, like justice, or maybe just revenge. Right now, I'm not sure I care which. The safe deposit box contains exactly 3 items: a USB drive, a small leather journal, and a silver locket I remember from grandmother's neck. My hands shake as I plug the drive into my laptop in David's office. "Your grandmother mentioned you might come looking for this," David says, closing his office door. "She was very specific about the timing." Files populate my screen, hundreds of them. Financial records, property deeds, photographs, years of Linda's careful manipulation, documented in meticulous detail. "She knew," I whisper. "All this time she knew what Linda was doing." "Margaret knew everything." David leans against his desk. "Including what Frank and Linda were planning for you." A video file catches my eye. Linda and Frank, in what looks like a coffee shop, dated 3 months before grandmother's death. I click play, and their voices fill the room. "Once Margaret's gone, we move the girl out," Frank says. "Linda gets the properties, I get the house, everyone wins." "Except Ariel," Linda replies, laughing. The image blurs as tears fill my eyes. "They planned this before she died." My phone buzzes. Mom calling again. I silence it, but not before seeing her text. "Frank's furious, says you're making threats. Please stop this." "Your grandmother left you a choice," David says quietly. "Read the journal." The leather book feels heavy in my hands. Inside, grandmother's elegant script fills the pages. I flip to the last entry, dated a week before she died. My dearest Ariel, by now you know the truth. You have two paths before you, justice or vengeance. Choose carefully. One will heal you, the other will hollow you. The evidence is yours to use as you see fit. But remember, some victories cost more than defeats. A knock interrupts my reading. Through David's office window, I see Linda standing in the reception area, looking desperate. I didn't expect her to crack this quickly, David muses. She hasn't. I slip the journal into my bag. She's here to threaten, not surrender. Linda bursts in without waiting for permission. Whatever she's told you, she says. To David, there's more to the story. Like the missing insurance money? I ask. Or the forged documents for grandmother's properties. You don't understand what you're doing. Linda's voice shakes. Frank has connections. He can make things very difficult. Are you threatening my client? David straightens. Suddenly, every inch the lawyer. I'm trying to protect her. Linda's composure cracks. Frank's not who you think. He's dangerous when he's crossed. A chill runs down my spine. What do you mean, dangerous? Ask your mother about the accident. Linda's eyes dart between us. The one that really killed your father. The room seems to tilt. My father died of a heart attack. Is that what Sheila told you? Linda laughs bitterly. God, you're as naive as she was. Frank had debts. Your father knew too much. You're lying. But my voice sounds hollow. Check the USB, Linda says. Margaret had proof. Why do you think she adopted you? She was trying to protect you from him. My phone buzzes again. Tina this time. Your mom just showed up at my place looking for you. She's crying. Time's up, Linda, David says firmly. I suggest you leave before I call security. She backs toward the door. Just be careful, Ariel. Some secrets are buried for a reason. After she leaves, I sit heavily in David's guest chair. Could she be telling the truth? About Frank? David hands me a file from his desk. Your grandmother thought so. That's why she left you this. Inside is a police report I've never seen before. My father's name, Frank's, a suspicious accident that was never fully investigated. My revenge against Linda suddenly seems small, petty even. What if I've been focusing on the wrong enemy all along? What do? I whisper. David's expression is grave. That depends. Do you want justice or vengeance? I touch the locket in my pocket, remembering grandmother's words about choices and costs. The weight of her legacy, both the truth she uncovered and the weapons she left me, settles heavily on my shoulders. My phone lights up with another text from Mom. Please come home. We need to talk about your father. Sometimes, I realize, revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes, it's about exposing the truth, no matter who gets burned in the process, even if that someone is you. I find Mom waiting in Tina's apartment, her face streaked with tears. The police report burns in my bag like a live coal. Did you know? The words come out before I can stop them. About Dad's accident? She flinches as if I'd struck her. Who told you? Does it matter? Did you know Frank was involved? It's not that simple. Her hands flutter to her pregnant belly, protective. You don't understand what it was like back then. Then explain it to me. I remain standing while she sits, needing the height, the distance. Explain how you married the man who, he protected us. Her outburst echoes in the small room. Your father's gambling debts. There were dangerous people involved. Frank made it all go away. By making Dad go away, I didn't know. Her voice cracks. Not until after. Frank said it was an accident, that he tried to help. A key turns in the lock, Tina returning. But the door opens to reveal Frank instead, his bulk filling the door frame. My heart stutters. How did you get in? I back away instinctively. He holds up a key. Your friend should be more careful about where she leaves her spare. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. We need to talk about these accusations you're throwing around. Frank, please, Mom starts, but he cuts her off with a look. I've been patient, he says, closing the door behind him. Tolerant. But you're becoming a problem, Ariel, just like your father was. Is that a threat? I reach for my phone, but it's not in my pocket. I'd left it charging in Tina's room. It's a fact. He moves further into the room. You think you've got it all figured out, with your grandmother's evidence and Linda's confession. But you're missing the bigger picture. The picture where you killed my father? His laugh is cold. Your father killed himself. I just helped things along, like I'm going to help you understand your place in this family. Frank, Mom struggles to stand. You promised. I promised to protect our family. He snaps. That's what I'm doing. Your daughter's threatening everything we've built. By exposing the truth. Truth? He pulls something from his jacket, a familiar leather journal. My blood runs cold. You mean like the truth in here, about how your precious grandmother was embezzling from her own company, how she manipulated everyone around her? You're lying. Am I? He tosses the journal onto the coffee table. Check the last pages, the ones she didn't want you to see. My hands shake as I pick it up. There, in grandmother's handwriting, are details of financial transactions, hidden accounts, manipulated records. She wasn't protecting you, Frank says softly. She was protecting herself, using you as a pawn, just like I used Linda, just like everyone uses everyone else. No. But the evidence is there in black and white. You want revenge? He spreads his arms. Go ahead, expose everything. But remember, the truth burns everyone it touches, including you, including your mother, including your grandmother's precious legacy. Mom's crying quietly now, one hand pressed to her mouth. The weight of it all, the lies, the manipulations, the generations of betrayal, crashes down on me. What do you want? My voice sounds hollow, defeated. Sign over the properties, all of them. Walk away from this vendetta before it destroys what's left of your family. He pulls out papers from his jacket. Your mother needs peace. Your sibling deserves a fresh start. The papers blur before my eyes. Everything I thought I knew, everyone I thought I could trust, all of it built on lies. Don't, Mom whispers. Please, Ariel, don't. Quiet, Frank commands, and she falls silent, just like always. I stare at the papers, at Frank's expectant smile, at Mom's tears. Grandmother's last words echo in my mind. Some victories cost more than defeats. But what about the cost of surrender? My phone chirps distantly from Tina's room. Probably David wondering why I missed our follow-up meeting. David, who has copies of everything. David, who knows things even Frank doesn't know yet. I need time, I say, hating how weak my voice sounds. To think. Frank's smile widens. You have until tomorrow. Choose wisely. He leads Mom out, leaving me alone with the journal, the papers, and the crushing weight of understanding that sometimes the greatest betrayals come from those we trusted most. But maybe, just maybe, that's also true for salvation. The USB drive feels heavy in my pocket as I walk into the family meeting Frank arranged. Everyone's gathered in grandmother's old study. Mom, Frank, Linda, even George. David waits outside with copies of everything, ready to act if I don't check in within an hour. Have you made your decision? Frank asks, gesturing to the paper on the desk. I pick up the pen, turning it slowly. Actually, I have some documents of my own to share first. Linda shifts nervously in her chair. Ariel, think carefully about... Oh, I have. I connect the USB drive to grandmother's old computer, still sitting in its place of honor. Did you know she never turned this off? Just left it running, recording everything. Frank's smile falters. What are you talking about? The screen flickers to life, showing security footage of this very room. Dated 3 days before grandmother died. I found something interesting, I say, pressing play. Watch. On screen, Frank and Linda stand arguing with grandmother. The audio is crystal clear. You can't prove anything, Frank says. I can prove everything, grandmother replies. The money laundering, the accident, all of it. Did you really think I wouldn't protect my granddaughter? Present-day Frank lunges for the computer, but I'm faster, backing away with the remote. Keep watching. It gets better. Linda's voice emerges from the speakers. "We had a deal, Margaret. I keep quiet about Frank's involvement in the accident. And you—" "Enough," Frank shouts, but Mom raises her hand. "Let it play," she says quietly. "I need to hear this." The footage continues, revealing layer after layer of manipulation. Frank's schemes, Linda's complicity, the truth about my father's death. Mom's hands cover her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "You're not the only one who can gather evidence," I tell Frank. "Grandmother taught me well." "Evidence of what?" He tries to sound confident, but his eyes keep darting to the screen. "Some edited footage? Proves nothing." "Maybe not alone." I pull out my phone, showing the email I'd queued up. "But combined with these financial records David helped me uncover, the police might be interested." "You wouldn't dare." Linda stands, panic in her eyes. "Think about your mother, your sibling." "I am thinking about them." I look at Mom. "That's why I already sent everything to the district attorney." 10 minutes ago, the room erupts in chaos. Frank lunges for me again, but George surprisingly steps in his way. "Don't," George says. "It's over." Linda collapses into her chair. "How long have you known about you embezzling from our joint accounts?" George's voice is ice. "Long enough. I was just waiting to see who would expose you first." Mom stands slowly, one hand on her belly. "All this time, you both knew how my husband really died." "Sheila," Frank starts, but she cuts him off. "Don't." She turns to me. "The recordings. Are there more?" I nod. "Grandmother kept everything. She knew. She knew someday we'd need the truth." Frank's phone buzzes, a text message that drains the remaining color from his face. "They're here." Through the window, we can see police cars pulling up to the house. "You know what the funny thing is," I say, watching Frank's world crumble. "I was ready to sign those papers this morning, to give up everything just to keep the peace." "Then why didn't you?" Linda asks quietly. "Because I found one last recording, from the day before Grandmother died." I press play one final time. Grandmother's voice fills the room. "Remember, Ariel, revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about protecting those who remain. Choose truth over peace, justice over vengeance. That's my real legacy to you." The sound of footsteps on the stairs grows louder. Frank looks desperately for an escape route, but there isn't one. "Goodbye, Frank," Mom says softly. "I should have chosen truth a long time ago." The door opens, and justice, delayed but not denied, finally arrives. I watch them lead Frank and Linda away, feeling not triumph, but a heavy sort of peace. Grandmother was right. The truth burns everyone it touches. But sometimes, that's exactly what's needed to forge something new from the ashes. The house feels different as I pack up Grandmother's study. Each object holds a memory now. The computer that revealed the truth, the desk where Frank signed his confession, the chair where Mom finally broke her silence about Dad's death. David helps me sort through the last of the papers. The DA says Frank's plea deal includes full restitution. Money can't fix everything. I place Grandmother's silver locket in a special box, the one thing I'm keeping. Mom's not speaking to me. "She will," he says. "But we both know it might take years." The truth about Dad broke something in her that even time might not heal. The doorbell rings. Linda's daughter Emma, here to collect her mother's remaining belongings before the house sells. I find her in the foyer, looking small and lost. "I'm sorry," I say, meaning it. "About everything." She nods stiffly. "Mom told me. She told me why Grandmother Margaret did it. Why she set all this up." "Did what?" Emma pulls out a familiar leather journal, not the one Frank had, but another, older one. She knew about the affair between Mom and Frank years ago, before he married your mother. The world tilts slightly. "What?" "They were planning something together. Back then. Something about the company, but Grandmother caught them. And," Emma's voice breaks, "she gave them a choice. Stop, or she'd make sure they destroyed each other eventually." I think about all the evidence Grandmother gathered, the way she positioned everyone like pieces on a chessboard. She planned this, all of it? She knew they wouldn't stop. so she made sure when they finally fell, they'd fall together. Emma hands me the journal. Mom wanted you to have this, she said. She said maybe now you'll understand why some victories feel hollow. I opened the journal to find a letter addressed to me in grandmother's handwriting. My dearest Ariel, if you're reading this, you've chosen justice over vengeance. But justice has its own price. The truth you fought so hard to expose was orchestrated long ago by hands just as stained as those you sought to punish, including mine. The front door opens again. Tina, bringing boxes for the last of the packing. She stops when she sees my face. You okay? She asks. I close the journal, feeling the weight of grandmother's final lesson. I thought I was fighting for the truth, but I was just the last move in someone else's game. Does it matter? David asked quietly. The truth still needed telling. Maybe he's right. Maybe the motivation behind justice matters less than justice itself. But as I help Emma carry her mother's things to her car, I can't help but wonder about the cost of righteousness, about the fine line between vengeance and vindication. Later, in what used to be my bedroom, I find one last surprise, a key taped behind a loose baseboard, with a note in Mom's handwriting. For when you're ready to come home, some things are stronger than truth. I add it to the chain holding grandmother's locket, understanding finally what she meant in her last recording. Revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about protecting those who remain. But sometimes, in protecting them, we hurt them in ways we never intended. The house sells the next day. I use the money exactly as grandmother specified. Half to a trust for Mom's new baby, my sister-to-be, and half to a scholarship fund in Dad's name. Not for revenge or justice, but for healing. As I lock up for the last time, I see Mom across the street, watching. She doesn't wave or come over, but she doesn't turn away either. It's not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe it's a start. I touch the key on my chain, feeling its potential. Some doors close forever, but others just wait for the right moment to open again. Ready? Tina asks from the car. I look at the house one last time, seeing not the battlefield it became, but the home it used to be, the home it might be again, someday, for someone else. Yeah, I say, turning away. I'm ready. The truth may have burned everyone it touched, but from those ashes, something new can grow, something stronger than revenge, more lasting than justice. Something like hope.
Poor thing, having a poor mother. I feel sorry for the child. In front of Gina, who has always looked down on me, I feel my blood draining away. I can't take it anymore. I'm on the verge of blurting out something awful. My name is Hillary Anderson. I am a 33-year-old homemaker, working part-time. I have been married to Ned for 8 years, and we have a 6-year-old daughter. We are a happy family of 3. My husband is an ordinary office worker, kind and reliable. Our daughter Sarah is about to start elementary school and has become quite precocious. She is somewhat a peculiar child. Sarah likes cute stuffed animals and her favorite cartoon is about magical girls. A seemingly normal girl. But sometimes she says strange things. Watch out, that lady's going to trip. She would suddenly say while walking. Confused, I watched as a woman walking in front of us suddenly stumbled and fell. It seemed like she wasn't hurt badly, but her leg looked painful. Remembering what my daughter had said just before, I thought it was a coincidence at first. But it wasn't. Such incidents kept happening. Mom, if you're going shopping, take an umbrella. Huh? It's sunny, though. I ended up soaking wet because I didn't take an umbrella. Dad says he'll be late today, so he doesn't need dinner. He hasn't sent any message about working late. Minutes later, my husband texted that he wouldn't need dinner because of overtime. Luckily, I hadn't started cooking yet. If we keep going this way, there's a scary dog. We've never walked this road before, right? As we walked in an unfamiliar place, sure enough, a dog barked at us. Eeks. I initially thought it was a coincidence, but as it kept happening, I couldn't just dismiss it as such. While preparing dinner, I glanced at my daughter watching her favorite anime on TV. She looked happy, a completely normal girl. Even when she says something prophetic, there is nothing strange about her. Unlike a fortune teller who might create a spooky atmosphere. She just mentions things casually in conversation. Probably, she doesn't think of it as prophesying. She's not trying to scare anyone, it just seems like she's simply saying what she thinks. Maybe she can see a little bit into the future. It doesn't happen very often though. When I asked her, "Will this lottery ticket win?" "I don't know." That was her reply. It's not like she tries to predict, but it just suddenly becomes clear to her. Or maybe she feels it. Such things might occur in childhood, but usually, they fade as one grows. So, I haven't thought much about it, accepting it casually. It's not predicting serious crimes. It's just little everyday things, so if she mentions something, I just pay attention, thinking it's handy. My husband has noticed her unusual behavior too, but like me, he doesn't think much about it. We think it's best for her. On a certain holiday, with my husband away on a business trip, Sarah and I headed to a large shopping center a little far from home. Even a short journey by bus or train is an exciting event for a child. Watching my daughter happily frolicking in a store with her favorite cartoon merchandise, I thought it was good to have come. Then, it happened. "Hey, is that Hillary?" I had a bad feeling when I heard that voice. "Hey, you're Hillary Anderson, right?" The voice from behind me. Someone who knew my maiden name and called me by it. I knew who it was without looking. No, I didn't want to look. Just hearing that voice, I knew who it was. An existence I wished I could forget. But once I heard her voice, I involuntarily remembered. "Hey, don't ignore me. You're Hillary, right?" The increasingly aggressive tone made me feel worse. But it seemed I couldn't just ignore her, so I timidly turned around. Gina. As expected, a familiar face. It really is Hillary. Super long time no see. Since graduation, right? Oh, well, yes. Since graduation. Yes, the last time I saw her was after high school graduation. It's been 15 years. I wished I could avoid meeting her forever. But meeting Gina, I couldn't help but remember the terrible memories from high school. Seeing my frown, Gina chuckled. "You still look shabby. Still poor as ever?" There it was. As always. Even after more than a decade, she hadn't changed. During high school, Gina always looked down on me. My father was frail, and my mother worked. But taking care of my father and raising 3 kids, she couldn't work much, so we were poor. All my grandparents had passed away and my parents had no siblings. We had no relatives to rely on. Though, we managed to live with government assistance. Our family was very close, and I think we were a happy family despite being poor. At least, I never felt inferior about our situation. However, even if the person concerned was okay with it, that didn't mean everyone else felt the same way. In those days, Gina would relentlessly make belittling remarks every day. Eek. What's with that lunch? There's hardly any side dishes, how pitiful. You smell a bit. Are you taking a bath, Hillary? You're not just bathing once a week because you're poor, right? Hey, is it true that you sew up torn socks and keep wearing them? You begged a graduate for their old uniform, didn't you? How pathetic. And she would invariably laugh and say, "I'm so glad I wasn't born into Hillary's family." I'm really a lucky person. She would put me down to elevate herself. That's just the kind of person Gina is. No matter how much everyone warned her, Gina's demeaning remarks about me never stopped. Even if we were in different classes, she would somehow find a way to interfere. She must have wanted to feel superior by looking down on me. During the sensitive period of high school, I couldn't just let it slide. And I cried every time she said something. But even my tears pleased Gina. Whether I got angry or cried, it made no difference to her. Ultimately, her belittling remarks didn't stop until we graduated. And on the day of our graduation, I'm so happy, I won't have to see such a poor person anymore. Hillary, you better not rummage through garbage cans. It'll make you stink even more. Saying that, she left with a loud laugh. Inside, I thought, good riddance. But I kept quiet because saying anything would sound like sour grapes. And from then on, we never met again. Of course, I didn't invite her to my wedding. Even though we went to the same high school, she lived a bus ride away and I cycled to school. And our homes were far apart, so we never accidentally met in town. Why now? Why this coincidence? I decided I must cut that conversation short and leave as soon as possible. Just after making that decision, suddenly, I felt a strong grip on my arm. Gina, what are you doing? You haven't seen each other in so long, let's go to that cafe and talk. No, I'm really busy right now. Don't be so cold. I'll treat you, come on. Oh no. I was forcefully pulled into the cafe in no time. Once seated, it would be awkward to say I was leaving. I thought I would have a coffee and then make a quick exit. I'll have this cake set and add a parfait too. What about you, Hillary? Just a coffee for me. And an orange juice for my daughter. Hearing that, Gina burst out laughing. What now? As I glared at her, she chuckled and said, What? Still no money? What? Ignoring the furrow in my brow, Gina continued, laughing. I mean, just coffee and juice at a cafe. Sorry. I know it's rude to laugh though. What's wrong with having coffee and juice? It's ridiculous to have just that at a cafe. Is your husband not earning much? Or are you alone and not able to do much work? That kind of comment was infuriating. I was tired of her belittling remarks. But I couldn't tolerate her insulting my beloved husband. Unfortunately for you, my husband has been working very hard. And we just bought our dream house recently. I'm working part-time because I want to explore my own possibilities, not because we're poor. A house. It must be a tiny little doghouse, right? Poor thing, trying to pretend you're not poor. What? Why do I have to be insulted like that? What does she know about my current life? I only ordered drinks to make a quick exit, yet she belittles me just for that. Gina hasn't changed at all. What a terrible reunion. And then the final straw came. Gina looked at my daughter and said, Poor thing, having a poor mother. I feel sorry for her. At that moment, I felt something snap in my head. I couldn't take it anymore. If I opened my mouth, I was sure to spout a string of curses. A string of expletives that should not be heard by a child. Despite feeling drained, I was strangely boiling inside. I opened and closed my mouth repeatedly, struggling to find the words. And an awkward silence ensued. Thank you for waiting. Just then, the items we ordered arrived, cutting through the frozen air. The conversation paused, allowing me to regain my composure. But the break was brief. As soon as Gina tasted her cake, she said loudly and sarcastically, Wow, it's so delicious. When you have money, you can eat such tasty things. I'm so glad I'm not poor. I thought, ignore her, just ignore her. Good Hillary, the thing in front of you is just a big, noisy bug. I won't let the bug bug me. I desperately tried to think of trivial things to distract myself. I told myself repeatedly I wouldn't let the bug bug me. But my lack of reaction probably wasn't entertaining for her. With each bite, Gina continued, giving a poor and meaningless food report. Wow, really sweet and delicious. This cream, you know.
Yeah.
It's just rich and smooth. The sweetness spreads and the cake melts in my mouth. I couldn't even taste my coffee. Thank you for the drink. As soon as Sarah finished her drink, I stood up. Until she finished, only Gina was talking, but I completely ignored her. Hey. Gina tried to call me back, sounding displeased. I glanced at her and coldly said, I don't intend to let you treat us. I'll pay for our part and leave. However, I couldn't leave. Because my arm was suddenly pulled. I thought it was Gina, but it was my little daughter's hand. What's up, Sarah? As I tilted my head in confusion, Sarah looked not at me, but at Gina. What? Stunned by my daughter's gaze, Gina faltered. Facing her, Sarah slowly raised her hand and pointed firmly, saying, Old lady. What? I'm not an old lady. Old lady, be careful. I told you, I'm not an old lady, huh? Good job, Sarah. I was silently cheering inside. Wait, hold on. Did she just tell her to be careful? I froze at my daughter's words. Sarah continued, pointing at Gina, who also still froze and was puzzled. Be careful about your neck, old lady. What? What is she talking about? She was confused, not understanding what was going on. Here it comes. I never expected my daughter's special ability to show up there. Well, I didn't really understand it either, but maybe I should explain lightly. My daughter has a bit of a precognitive ability. When she says something like this, something tends to happen quite often. What? That's creepy. Think whatever you want. If you want to ignore it, go ahead. Just don't come complaining to us no matter what happens. What? Hey. Wait. After saying my piece, my daughter and I left the cafe. Gina, not having finished eating, couldn't chase after us even if she wanted to. If I put it that way, she would undoubtedly be worried whether she wanted to or not. I couldn't stop laughing, thinking I had managed a little revenge. Mommy, you're making a naughty face. I thought I would never see Gina again after that. But there was a second unexpected reunion. It happened when I was leaving my part-time job. Hillary, someone shouted, grabbing my arm. It was unexpectedly Gina. Gah. Gina. Why are you here? I called every classmate from our high school days. No one would tell me your home address, but one person told me where you work. No way. Privacy is important. I'll have to deal with the friend who leaked my information later. Resigned to my fate, I faced Gina with a deep sigh. Well. What do you want now? What's the matter? Your daughter. Where is she now? Sarah? Why do you need to know about my daughter? I want her to prophesy again. What on earth should I do? What? She said such nonsense and suddenly burst into tears. So I pulled her into a cafe to settle down and listen. The other day, on my work-from-home day, I skipped work to go watch baseball. That's kind of abrupt. It's not abrupt. I've always loved baseball. So it's natural for me to go on the opening day, right? That's news to me. More than her love for baseball, I was concerned about her skipping work. Then I thought my collar felt weird, and it started to itch. When I looked, there was a bee inside. Oh, like when you hang it outside and a bee gets in? Probably. Then my neck started to swell, and I panicked and ran to the hospital. Huh. By the time I got to the hospital, it had swollen so much. It was like my neck had gotten longer. Really? That's what I want to know. It was like I had become a long-necked monster. I shouldn't laugh. This is probably not the time to laugh. But sorry. I couldn't help it and burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? Sorry, but a swollen neck turning into a monster. That's funny. This is no laughing matter. I didn't feel bad at all, and I was actually thinking, serves you right? But I apologized while continuing to laugh. I laughed until tears came. My stomach hurt from laughing, so I finally managed to stop and wiped my tears. In front of me was a furious Gina, a long-neck monster. No, not that, but Gina. Listen seriously. Yes. So, I got fired from the company. This is too sudden, I can't keep up with the conversation. How does a long neck relate to getting fired from the company? When I went to the hospital, I ran into my boss who was there because he had been feeling unwell. Oh, and you, because of a bee? Don't joke around now. I wouldn't praise you anyway. Well, my skiving off work got exposed, and it escalated to higher-ups, and then HR notified me. You got fired? They said I was either fired or transferred to a remote countryside. Then why don't you just go to the countryside? It's an awful place, not a single young man around. Are you saying I should stay single forever? I kind of knew it already. But Gina was indeed single. It's not that being single was bad, but from her tone, it seemed Gina desired to be married. Desiring marriage yet still being single meaned. Well, there was a lot to infer there. What are you going to do about this? It's your daughter's fault I'm in this worst situation. How did it come to this? What does my daughter have to do with your current situation? Your daughter said, "Be careful about your neck." That's a total curse. A curse? I got stung by a bee on my neck and then got fired from the company, just like that. Oh, but that's your own doing, right? Plus, it wasn't a curse, it was a warning. My daughter was telling you to be careful. How could I know that? It's a classic case of misdirected anger. Skipping work was your doing. Not noticing the bee in your clothing was also your doing. Having a work attitude that gets you fired over a single day's absence is also your doing. It's all your own problem. I bluntly said that, and Gina was left speechless. I added fuel to the fire. By the way, you used to look down on me for being poor. If getting fired makes you struggle financially, aren't you just as poor? No. That can't be. Look at this brand name bag and all these fancy jewelry accessories. And my clothes. Oh yes, Gina is rich, I'm so jealous. Don't say it in such a flat tone. It's all trivial to me. I'm tired from work. And it's almost time to pick up my daughter. I stood up to leave. Wait. Well, maybe it's karma for looking down on people for being poor. Bad luck, Gina. Hey. Oh, by the way. As Gina started fussing, I turned around to give her one last jab. About my house. What about it? It's a single-family home with a garage and a yard on about 2,200 square feet property. What? That's a huge size. I thought it might be too big for 3 people, but we might get a dog. And maybe there'll be more kids, so it's just a tiny doghouse to us. I said that and laughed heartily as I walked away. I could hear Gina causing a fuss behind me, but I never looked back. I'm sure I will never look back on the past again. After that, I contacted the friend who had told Gina about my workplace, and she kept apologizing. She had no idea it would lead to that. Come on. During a rare catch-up with friends from high school, I heard that Gina had eventually quit her job. Though she quit, she struggled to find another job and didn't want to lower her standard of living. Complaining about it. Despite being a regular office worker, she had been lavish with brand items and luxuries, apparently having no savings at all. After quitting, she couldn't stop her extravagant lifestyle and ended up in deep debt and declared bankruptcy. Later, she borrowed money from dangerous people. And now who knows where she is and what she's doing. She spent a long time looking down on me as poor. But in the end, her life, poor in spirit, settled in a fittingly poor state. There's no such thing as being above or beneath anyone. We shouldn't make condescending remarks. I'll make sure to teach that lesson to my daughter. While I was thinking that and reading a storybook to my daughter, she suddenly stared intently at my stomach. What's up, Sarah? Mommy's tummy is going to get bigger, isn't it? What? Now, what does that mean? I have been eating a bit much lately, so is it a simple prophecy of gaining weight? Or is it a sign of a new life beginning? I am spending the days pondering what the future holds. Anuresis smells. Both of you stay away from me. Sean yelled at Lisa and me. He had a scary face I had never seen before, and Lisa gasped in fear. But I couldn't understand what Sean was saying. Who on earth is he talking about when he mentions anuresis? Huh? Who are you talking about? Don't play dumb. Lisa, you wet your bed, right? This pee smell must be from that. Sean pointed at Lisa. With a scary face from her father, Lisa was completely frightened. I spoke up for her instead. Lisa didn't wet the bed. Neither her bed cover nor her pajamas are wet. What? Sean's eyes widened. I thought this might be my chance to escape from Sean. My name is Alyssa Brown. I am 35 years old. I live with my husband Sean, who is 3 years older than me, and our 5-year-old daughter Lisa. I used to work at a company before my child was born. But since she was born, I've been working from home. I like working, so I studied design on my own. Thanks to that, my skills have improved so much that I now have work every day. Sean doesn't understand anything about my job. He scoffs at it as if my work from home is just a way to earn pocket money. I don't like Sean's attitude, so I try not to show him much of my work. Lisa is a very honest and a good girl. Perhaps because she sees me being busy with work at home. She helps me by folding laundry and setting the table during meals. To me, she is like a little manager. Although she is only 5, I am happy that she tries to help with the household chores. I am really glad she is not like the unpleasant Sean. Until we got married, I thought Sean was a charming and an attractive man. I am the type who passionately falls in love. The moment I met Sean, I fell in love with him. I was determined, I will definitely marry this man. I never thought he would change so much after we actually got married. Hey, isn't my dinner ready yet? It's already 7 o'clock. One day, when I had just returned from shopping and was about to take a break, Sean came up to me and said bluntly. He was in a shirt and underwear, a sloppy look. His socks were scattered around the entrance. Sean works at a major materials manufacturer and returns home exactly at 6 p.m. every day. From what I hear, it's a very good standing and financially stable company. Sorry. The traffic was terrible. I'll start cooking now, so wait a moment. What? You're telling me, the husband, to wait? Dinner has to be at 7 o'clock, I've told you. Can't help it. I had errands to run. By the way, did you bring in the laundry? I usually ask Sean, if you come home and have nothing to do, please help with the housework. I am well aware that Sean does not help with the housework, but married seniors have told me. Education is key with husbands. If you keep educating them without giving up, it will get easier. So I keep asking him to help out with the intention of educating my husband. Lisa did the laundry. Lisa did? Then what were you doing? I didn't even need to ask. I could smell beer on Sean's breath. I realized that Sean's cheeks were flushed. It's embarrassing that he lets our 5-year-old daughter bring in the laundry while he just drinks alcohol. His face turns red as soon as he drinks. I'm tired from work. You're inhumane, ordering your husband to do housework. John and Ned, my colleagues, say their wives do all the housework. Compared to them, I'm pitiful. Having a wife who tells me to do housework after work. John and Ned are Sean's colleagues. Sean often brings up their names. I've met both, and indeed their wives are full-time homemakers. It's childish to compare with other families. I sighed and started preparing dinner. Sean's bad point wasn't just his lack of help with housework. Lisa, you said you wanted this, right? Daddy worked hard and earned money, so I bought it for you. Sean gave Lisa the popular Nancy doll among girls. When you go to a toy store, this doll is always prominently displayed and is quite expensive. Nancy doll.
Yay!
Thank you, Daddy. Lisa jumped at Sean and kissed him on the cheek. Sean nodded in satisfaction and lifted Lisa up. Lisa was overjoyed, holding the Nancy doll. This kind of thing has happened several times already. Sean doesn't do any childcare, but he seems to put his heart into spoiling Lisa. He buys her things that I refused when she wanted them. He thinks this will make her grow attached to him. Did you buy a toy again? I've been telling you to stop spoiling her. When I slightly admonished him, Sean glared at me. It's just this much. I bought it with my own money that I earned. Unlike you, I earn a lot of money every month. It's my right to spend my money however I want. Lisa was not paying attention to our conversation, playing with the Nancy doll. Sean, having gained Lisa's trust, was too proud to care about my words. I worried that Lisa would grow up spoiled. So, I took the Nancy doll away from her. I'll hold on to this for now. I'll give it back to you on your birthday, okay? Why? Lisa raised her voice in dissatisfaction after the Nancy doll was taken from her. This is something Daddy worked very hard to get for you. Isn't it better to receive it on a special day? I guess so. Surprisingly, Lisa nodded in agreement. Sean muttered discontentedly, but I felt relieved inside that Lisa was well behaved. Instead, how about we go somewhere fun this Sunday? I suggested this to cheer up the downcast Lisa, and her face lit up immediately.
Yay!
Lisa was thrilled, as if she had already forgotten about the doll incident. Hey, how about we go to the amusement park this Sunday? I looked at Sean, hoping he would agree since it was a plan to entertain Lisa. But Sean was scratching the back of his head as if it were a hassle. I can't that day. I have plans. What? But. Plans? It's unusual for Sean, who typically lounges around at home on Sundays. Can't be helped. I made these plans a while ago. We can go to the amusement park another time. Sigh. I was stunned, and Lisa looked downcast again. I said to Lisa, then, how about just the two of us go, and she smiled again and said, "Yes. That's good. She seems happy even if it's just the two of us." Still, I'm curious about Sean's plans. But, even if I ask, I'll probably only get a vague response. I decided to just be happy if Lisa is happy. Although Sean acts important at home without doing any housework or childcare, I'm begrudgingly thankful that he brings a stable income every month. However, something perplexing has been happening lately. What's this about? At the end of the month, I go to the bank to calculate next month's household expenses. But this time, when I looked at the passbook for our joint account, I couldn't believe my eyes. The balance section of the passbook, which is usually noted with the same amount withdrawn each month for household expenses, showed that the balance had inexplicably dropped to $5 in the past month. I hurriedly checked the dates when the money was withdrawn. Every other day, there were traces of $100 or $200 being withdrawn. This certainly explains why the balance was only $5. But who? It had to be Sean. There's no other explanation. As soon as I realized it, I felt a heat rush to my head. What on earth did he spend so much money on? My mind whirled with questions, but no matter how much I thought, I couldn't find an answer. That night, I waited for Sean to return home to confront him about the truth. But even after his usual quitting time, there was no sign of him coming home. It was rare for him to be late because of overtime. "I'm home." How long had I waited? When I heard Sean's voice from the entrance, I glanced at the clock, and the date had changed. "Welcome back." "You're late." I had to do overtime. Sean's gait was unsteady, and he slurred his words, reeking of alcohol. He was clearly drunk. Knowing this, it was infuriating to hear such an obviously false excuse from Sean. "You could have told me you'd be late. I made dinner and everything." "What? Why do I have to report every little thing to you?" "Figure it out yourself." "Useless. I'm tired from work. Unlike you, I'm not just working as a hobby." Even drunk, Sean didn't forget to make a sarcastic remark. I felt sad knowing deep down he despised me. Without even taking a shower, Sean rolled onto his bed in his room and fell asleep. Just watching his careless figure made me sigh. I lay down in bed, feeling unresolved about the time I spent waiting for him. The next morning, as I busily prepared breakfast, a groggy Sean stomped over. He approached Lisa, who was watching TV, and spoke to her abruptly. "Lisa, did you doodle on the back of this contract?" "What?" Sean presented her with a piece of paper. Indeed, there were marks from Lisa's drawings on it. Lisa always drew on scrap paper. So it was clear that she had simply drawn on the back of the paper as usual. "This is an important contract with a client. What are we going to do about this silly drawing?" Seeing her father, who usually buys her anything she wants, glaring at her with a scary face, Lisa looked frightened and shrank. "I'm sorry." From the kitchen counter, I could see Lisa looking downhearted. I hurriedly washed my hands and rushed to her. "Sean, there's no need to be so angry." "Of course I'm angry. This contract is already signed by the client. What are you going to do about it?" Sean glared at us as if looking at something filthy. "It's your fault for leaving it around. Do you think Lisa understands that it's a contract? It's because of your poor parenting. If you were a good mother, you would have taught her properly." No matter what I said to Sean, it was a situation of you say this, I say that. And we couldn't settle anything. Suddenly, Sean pinched his nose and made a face. Without even thinking why, he opened his mouth. "Aneurysma smells. Both of you stay away from me." Sean yelled at Lisa and me. He had a scary face I had never seen before, and Lisa gasped in fear. But I couldn't understand what Sean was saying. What on earth does he mean by enuresis? Huh? Who are you talking about? Don't play dumb. Lisa, you wet the bed, right? This ammonia smell must be from that. Sean pointed at Lisa. With a scary face from her father, Lisa was completely frightened. I spoke up for her instead. Lisa didn't wet the bed. Neither her bed cover nor her pajamas are wet. Indeed, Lisa had wet the bed a few times when she was younger. But that was temporary, and she hadn't done so in the last year or two. Sean, who only spoils her and doesn't do proper childcare, probably doesn't understand this. What? Sean's eyes widened. I said, what do you mean by the smell? It does smell a little, but it's not Lisa. When I sniffed Sean's clothes, indeed, there was a slight scent that might be described as such. But it was such a faint smell that if it were called a misunderstanding, I would believe it. What are you talking about? This smell is obvious.
Ah.
Enough. You two are annoying. Just don't come near me. In fact, get out. Sean was perhaps hungover, his thinking unclear, and his words were more aggressive than usual. I thought this might be my chance to escape from Sean. Understood. I calmly moved away from Sean and took Lisa's hand. If you want us to leave, we will leave. Take care of the house. You'll come back soon because you have no money. Sean perhaps didn't believe I was serious about leaving the house. He scoffed at my actions. I ignored Sean and began packing our bags in a carry-on suitcase. Seeing me seriously packing, Lisa quietly watched over me. Once the packing was done, I took Lisa's hand and left the house. Then,
Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah.
still mocking my actions, Sean waved his hand dismissively as he stood at the entrance. I ignored him and left the house with Lisa. Sooner or later, I thought it would be necessary to distance ourselves from Sean. It's unfortunate for Lisa to be separated from her father, but it's necessary. Being around such a father would have a worse influence, I convinced myself. After leaving the house, I contacted the kindergarten and told them Lisa would be absent today. We killed time at parks and cafes, and in the evening, I contacted my friend Mandy. I asked if we could stay just for one night, and Mandy said, I wanted to talk to you about something, so it's actually good timing, and gladly accepted us. I timed our visit to her house for when Mandy returned from work. And Lisa and I arrived there together. Sorry for the sudden visit. Is it a bother? Not at all. We help each other out when in trouble, right? Lisa, do you want some juice? Yes. Lisa had met Mandy a few times and was fond of her. Mandy had always treated Lisa very kindly, so she probably thought of her as a kind older sister. Mandy brought over some orange juice and offered it to Lisa. Thank you, Lisa said with a smile. I felt relieved seeing her smile, as she had been tense all morning. So, what happened? Suddenly running away from home, what's going on? Mandy initiated asking about the situation, which made me feel more at ease. I explained everything about Sean's tyrannical nature and the events from last night to this morning. Just talking about it made my anger surge. Mandy listened seriously. I thought it might be something like that. I've always thought there was something off about Sean's behavior. And Mandy looked at me and Lisa alternately with a hesitant expression. I really struggled with whether to tell you this. What is it? What happened? I wondered what Mandy was about to say. I swallowed hard. It's awkward to say this in front of Lisa. But it seems like Sean is having an affair with his colleague at my company. I felt a dull shock weighing down on me at Mandy's revelation. What do you mean? Eager to hear the truth, I leaned in towards Mandy. As she began, actually, I braced myself. About a month ago, on a Sunday, 3 girls from my department went to the beach. One of my colleagues invited Sean and his friends. A month ago, on a Sunday? Wasn't that the day I suggested going to the amusement park and he said he had plans? Suspicion spread in my mind. Sean and his friends, 3 guys, also came, and they joined us for beach volleyball.
Oh.
They don't know my face, right? I've been to both of your weddings and you've shown me his photos many times, so I know him. But Sean had no idea I was your friend. My mouth went dry as I listened, and I drank water repeatedly. At that time, Sean and my junior, Brandy Smith, really hit it off. Brandy is cute and very popular with the men at work. She and Sean bonded and went somewhere together after playing at the beach. I've been told they've met up a few times since then. I'm sorry, I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I felt I couldn't keep it from you. I shook my head no, as Mandy looked apologetic while telling me the truth. So it was true. Sean was having an affair. Although surprised, I realized that I was unexpectedly calm. Thank you for telling me. It's been an eye-opener. I had been somewhat reserved towards Sean, who worked outside. But after hearing Mandy's story, I realized there was no need to hold back. I'm not going back to Sean. I'll make sure he regrets this. Then I'll help too. Since I work with his mistress, Brandy, I might be able to find out something. Mandy and I exchanged determined looks. The next day, after leaving Mandy's house, I went directly to the office and managed to get the documents I needed. I would be staying in a hotel for a while, but I had managed to sign a lease for a cheap rental property. So I planned to move in soon. Mandy also managed to get some information out of Brandy. Brandy, who looks up to Mandy like a big sister, seemed to answer everything she asked. I was shocked by the facts I learned. Filled with anger, I held back for now, waiting for the right time to act. Finally, the day for retaliation came. Mandy told me that Brandy was planning to visit Sean's house, my house, today. I left Lisa with Mandy and headed to my former home. It had been exactly 1 month since I left, and it somehow didn't feel like my home anymore. Seeing the high heels at the entrance confirmed my suspicions. Just imagining the kind of conversation the two might be having inside gave me goosebumps. I quietly opened the living room door, but nobody was there. Where could they be? As I listened closely, I heard a woman's voice coming from the bedroom. Hearing that indecent voice, I flung open the door, my face flushed with anger. So, you were cheating after all. The sudden appearance of me startled the naked couple, who shrieked absurdly at the sight of me. What are you doing here?
Oh.
Who is this woman? Ignoring the frenzied couple, I calmly took the divorce papers out of my bag. I came here to give you this. Here. I threw the divorce papers at Sean, hitting him with them. What is this? Coming here all of a sudden and throwing this at me, are you out of your mind? If anyone was out of their mind, it was undoubtedly Sean and Brandy. But explaining common sense to the unreasonable Sean would be futile, so I continued. Sean, you've been withdrawing money from our joint account, haven't you? What did you use that money for? I don't know what you're talking about. In front of Sean, who pretended to be ignorant, I thrust the passbook showing a balance of $5. Are you still going to feign ignorance after seeing this? If you don't know, shall I tell you? You spent all that money on Brandy, right? Sean froze on the spot. Brandy, puzzled that I knew her name, looked at me as if she'd seen a ghost. Oh, by the way, Mandy Irving from your workplace is my friend. Thanks for telling her everything about the affair, Brandy. It saved me a lot of trouble. Sean, you're just an ATM that gives her whatever she wants, right? Indeed, you've always bought everything for our daughter too. I showed them screenshots of messages between Mandy and Brandy that Mandy had sent me. They contained detailed information about the affair, such as the expensive bags he bought and when and where they went out. ATM. What is this? Realizing he had been treated like a cash dispenser, Sean was shocked and his eyes widened. Brandy trembled as she listened to the facts spilling from my mouth. Also, I heard this. Brandy, you've been struggling with enuresis, haven't you? Both Brandy and Sean turned pale. Yes. The reason Sean yelled at Lisa and me about the smell of enuresis a month ago was because of Brandy. Sean likely spent the previous day with Brandy, drunk and returning home without taking a bath. He became sensitive to the smell of enuresis lingering on Brandy's body until the next morning. Why would you bring that up? Sorry, but it's your own fault for cheating. Well, the worst one here is Mr. ATM over there. I scolded Sean again, who was standing there pale-faced. Do you still plan to deny the affair even with all this evidence? Just give up and sign the divorce papers. And be prepared to pay the compensation and child support in full. The mention of compensation and child support visibly shook Sean. What? You're joking. How can I pay for compensation and child support? It's your fault in the first place, isn't it? You never pay attention to me, always busy with Lisa. That's right. It's your fault. You should be the one paying compensation. Sean tried to shift the blame to me, which was so childish that my anger reached its peak. Oh, but you're always working hard, so you have money, right? Do you understand what you have done? You belittle my work from home and spoil Lisa too much. On top of that, you cheat, and why should I be the one to pay compensation? You realize how ridiculous you sound, right? I never want to deal with you again. From now on, talk to my lawyer.
Goodbye.
I left Sean and Brandy naked and exited the house. I heard Sean shouting, "Hey," and their voices arguing behind me, but I ignored it all. After leaving the house, I headed straight to Mandy's place. I just wanted her to listen. Sean called me multiple times afterwards, but I stubbornly refused to answer. Mandy advised, just block his number. So, I did exactly that and blocked Sean's number. A lawyer would handle the rest. Thank you, Mandy. I really owe you a lot. No, I should be the one apologizing for staying silent until now. It's going to be tough for a while, but if you need anything, just let me know. I was touched by my best friend's kindness. I thanked Mandy again and returned to my rented apartment. Lisa, I'm sorry. You wanted to be with Dad, didn't you? Feeling guilty about taking Lisa's father away, I apologized to her first. No, I love Mom. Dad is smelly, so it's okay without him. Lisa's innocent comment was both funny and dear to me. A few weeks later, Sean and I were officially divorced. I received $30,000 in compensation, and he agreed to pay child support monthly. Brandy seemed to have made advances towards other men at work too, making it difficult for her to stay, so she eventually quit. Of course, she and Sean broke up soon after their fight. Sean lost his wife, child, and mistress, ran out of money and credit, and lost motivation at work, eventually forcing him to resign. Now he seems to be struggling to repay his debts by doing part-time cleaning jobs. I feel no pity for him. Meanwhile, my work from home has taken off, and I now earn over $4,000 a month. More than Sean ever did as an office worker. If I can make Lisa happy with the money I earn myself, that's all I could wish for.
Oh, funeral preparations are tough, and my wife is so useless. What am I going to do? Really, it is tough, isn't it? What did she come here as a wife for? That day was my father-in-law's funeral. My husband and mother-in-law had not helped with any preparations and had left everything to me. However, as relatives began to gather, they slandered me, claiming all the work as their own achievement. Moreover, my husband's unbelievable actions continued even further. Hey, why are you trying to take out the condolence money? I couldn't help but reprimand him for his unreasonable behavior, to which he responded, "Shut up. It's none of your business. You're not family or anything, so don't butt in." What do you mean I'm not family? We are married. Tom and I got married 13 years ago. At that time, Tom, his parents, and our 3-year-old son were all kind to me. That's why I wanted to support him after marrying. However, after getting married, the four of us changed completely. Tom became extremely bossy. He decided on his own to live with his parents, who treated me like a maid and bullied me. Even my son, influenced by his father and grandparents, began to ridicule me. I endured such a life for 13 years. During my father-in-law's funeral, I was shocked by my husband's words and reached my limit. I did not attend the funeral and left a divorce paper, disappearing in front of them. The following day, there were as many as 203 missed calls from Tom. Listening to the messages in disbelief, I heard him panicking. "Hey, where are you now?" Then, I called my husband and began to fight back. "I am Hillary, a 40-year-old housewife, working part-time at a nearby supermarket. My husband, Tom, works for a travel agency, and he has a son, Ryan, from a previous marriage. I married him 13 years ago. At that time, I wanted to support him as he was raising his 3-year-old son alone. Before marriage, I worked at a travel agency. 14 years ago, a male employee joined the company through mid-career recruitment. I'll be under your care from today. I look forward to working with you all." That man would later become my husband, but at the time, he seemed like a very refreshing man. "Hillary, I heard from others that you are well versed in this job. Can you teach me?" "Of course. I'd be happy to. When you change jobs, the way things are done changes too, and I imagine that can be confusing." However, Tom was proactive in asking questions and worked hard to learn the job. "Hillary, I'm free right now, so I'll take care of this task." "Really? Thank you. That's a big help." Tom approached his job with a serious attitude, so he learned quickly. As he became proficient, his work speed increased, and he was able to help me with my tasks, which made me feel reassured about his reliability. "Wow, Tom, you're raising a child on your own and working hard too? Isn't it tough?" "But I have to protect Ryan as a parent. I need to fulfill my responsibilities." "You're kind, but make sure not to overdo it, okay?" As he became accustomed to the work, we started having conversations beyond that, and I learned that he was a hard-working single father. Next holiday, I'm taking Ryan to the park. "Hillary, would you like to join us? It'd give Ryan a taste of what having a mother might be like." "Are you sure I'm okay for that?" "Absolutely. I think you're the best for it. If you say so, I'm happy to join." While we couldn't date alone because of his child, we deepened our relationship by going out together on holidays and having meals at his home. The food Mom makes is delicious. Oh, but calling me Mom makes me blush. I'm not your mom yet. Why don't you become his mom? I think Ryan needs a mother. Are you serious? While the three of us had a good time, Tom's words might have come out in such a natural way. Although it was a surprise to me, I was genuinely happy since I hoped that was the case. With pleasure, if it's okay with you. Thus, I decided to marry him and become Ryan's mother. This was 1 year after Tom joined the company. And upon marriage, I quit the travel agency to focus on home life. My parents had already died in an accident, and I had an older brother. At that time, my brother had already started his own business and was living abroad, so I couldn't tell him in person and informed him over the phone. You've met a good person. That's great. You definitely must be happy. Yeah, thank you. My brother gladly gave his blessings, and I was happy. After reporting to my brother, it was time to inform my in-laws, which was nerve-wracking, but Tom was reassuring. Don't be so nervous. They'll definitely accept you since I chose you. That makes me feel more confident. We entered my in-laws' home, and I met them face to face. I'm Hillary. I married Tom. Nice to meet you. Hello, Hillary. It's a relief you married our son. I have been thinking it's tough raising a child with only a father. Thank you so much. I was happy because my in-laws accepted the marriage smoothly, as Tom had said. I'm happy to be with Mom forever now. Ryan said that, smiling innocently. Thus, I ended up with kind in-laws, a husband, and a sweet son. Looking back, that might have been the happiest moment for me. I was certain that a happy married life awaited me. But what awaited me was an unexpected turn of events. My husband, who had previously been kind, suddenly changed. Hey, make sure you iron my shirts by tomorrow morning. Okay, I understand. Also, I'll be home by 7 p.m. tomorrow, so make sure that freshly made dinner is ready. He started to act like a lord of the house, giving orders more frequently. I thought, do men change after getting married? While I thought I could still endure this level of change, one day, my husband said something outrageous. Hey, I've just arranged for us to live with my parents. What? I wasn't informed about living together. Why should I need your permission? I'm the head of the family. Do you understand? I do, but suddenly, he had even decided that we would live with his parents. I was confused and returned his words, but his arrogant attitude left no room for rebuttal. Besides, Ryan is happy about living with his grandparents, so you can't disregard his feelings. When he mentioned our son, I couldn't argue back, and I reluctantly accepted living with my in-laws. But it wasn't just my husband who had changed. My in-laws were the same. Since Hillary is living with us, you can take it easy now. Yes, I'll do that. Hillary, I'm leaving the household chores to you. Yes, I understand. I thought I would be sharing household duties with my mother-in-law, but instead, all chores were assigned to me. As long as you live here, you must listen to us. If you defy us, we'll tell Tom. Whatever you say, Tom will always believe us, you know. Under this pressure, I struggled with the household duties. What's with this seasoning? Have you been serving this to Tom and Ryan all this time? But both of them have never complained about the taste before. They were just being considerate of you. You should realize that. Criticism of my household duties wasn't limited to cooking. What's with this way of folding clothes? And look, there's still dust here. Did you really clean? I did clean as best as I could. No matter what I did, it was never good enough, and I lived under constant criticism, being bullied as an incompetent wife for 13 years. During that time, my mother-in-law never helped with the chores even once. Saying I was treated like a maid would not be an exaggeration. Unable to endure such a life, I thought about divorce several times. However, what kept me from it was my son. I thought, I must fulfill my role as a parent until Ryan becomes an adult. That thought kept me from divorcing, despite the endurance. However, I was painfully aware of the bad influence my husband and in-laws' attitudes had on my son when an incident occurred. Why can't Mom do anything right? What? Ryan, what's suddenly gotten into you? Grandpa and Grandma said so. It's really pathetic. You should be more responsible as a parent. Ryan, how can you say such things to your parent? I couldn't believe that my once sincere and adorable son could say such things. I was not only shocked by his change, but also I was already dealing with another issue at that time, which was the health of my father-in-law. In fact, a few years ago, my father-in-law became ill and needed care. Hey, I'm the head of the family, and Mom is getting old. You know what to do about Dad, right? Are you implying that? Exactly that. You take care of him. But I'm already busy with part-time work and household chores. Can't you help a little? However, Tom responded angrily, Shut up. Don't argue with me. I'm the one earning the money that keeps us living. I thought, that's a terrible thing to say. I thought it was useless to say anything more. My husband's attitude was the worst. With this background, I continued my life juggling part-time work, household chores, and caregiving alone. As a result, my body became worn out, and I lost even the energy and margin to think about divorcing. Then, my father-in-law fell ill again and passed away. Oh, funeral preparations are tough. Hey, Hillary, you take care of everything. Yes, as a daughter-in-law, it's only natural for you to do that. Understood. I had a feeling it would turn out this way, but sure enough, my husband and mother-in-law left all the funeral preparations to me. What was worse was what happened next. When the relatives who attended expressed their condolences for the sudden loss, they praised my husband and mother-in-law for managing the funeral, and the two acted as if they had handled all the arrangements. Well, it couldn't be helped, but I didn't think arranging a funeral would be so hard. Yes, it was a big help that Tom worked together with me. While some voices did commend me as a good daughter-in-law, the two slandered and mocked me. Oh, that one is no good. She's a useless wife who can't even handle this. She could at least be useful at a time like this. Hearing and seeing that, even the relatives were appalled. I thought, why have I tried so hard up to this point? Despite having devotedly served my husband and mother-in-law as they demanded, it was all unrewarded. I was truly disgusted with the situation. My husband's shocking behavior continued. Tom, what are you doing? What? Don't raise your voice. It's annoying. It's not just annoying. Why are you trying to take out the condolence money? I never thought he would do something so unreasonable. While I was stunned, I couldn't ignore such behavior, so I had to call him out. Shut up. It's none of your business, so stay out of it. You're not family, so don't interfere. What do you mean I'm not family? We're married. I couldn't believe what he said. I had been treated like a maid by my in-laws, but to think that my husband also saw me that way, despite being his wife, which means I am family, the fact that he didn't recognize that was shocking. So you say such things. I've had enough. At this point, continuing to endure seemed foolish, so I decided not to attend my father-in-law's funeral and returned home. I packed my bags, left a divorce paper, and went to a certain person's place. The following day, I checked my phone and thought, wow, what is this? I saw a history of missed calls from my husband. There were as many as 203. Not only had he left a history of calls, but also messages. As I listened, shocked, I heard, "Hey, Hillary, where the heck are you?" His voice sounded frantic and panicky. "The funeral is about to start. It's bad. Come back quickly." Despite his previous arrogance, it seemed he couldn't manage anything without me. Reluctantly, I called my husband, who seemed to have been waiting so eagerly. He picked up the phone promptly. "Finally, you decided to call. Hey, why didn't you attend the funeral?" "Why? You should ask yourself that. You're insolent for a wife. I won't forgive you for embarrassing me. Wasn't it fine without me? My brother attended in my place." Indeed, my brother had attended the funeral in my place. As I mentioned this, my husband became even more flustered. That was the problem. "You must have badmouthed us to your brother." "Not at all. I only spoke the truth." "I knew it. And your brother discussed it in front of the relatives. Thanks to that, both Mom and I were reproached by everyone." "That's your own doing. If the relatives had any sense, they would naturally be upset knowing what my husband and mother-in-law had done. I really can't understand why they don't see that. Not only had they caused a commotion at the funeral, but what added insult to injury was what happened after they returned. When we got back from the funeral, there was a divorce paper." "Are you serious about this?" "Yes, I'm serious. Of course," I answered clearly, showing my strong intention to divorce. "Don't joke. I will never allow a divorce. You just need to shut up and listen to me." Even after all this, he said such things. It felt like he was completely oblivious to the reasons for the divorce and truly beyond help. "I'm done being at the mercy of you and your mother. I won't be coming back." "What did you say?" "Make sure to fill out the divorce papers properly. Bye." I firmly told my husband this and hung up the phone. A week passed. There had been no contact from my husband, and I had been living peacefully when suddenly my mother-in-law called. "Hillary, what on earth is going on?" "Mother, what brings you to call all of a sudden?" "It's not. all of a sudden. Why do we have to be kicked out of the house? Oh, is that what this is about? What do you mean by that? Her call was to find out why they had been kicked out of the house. But there was a reason I could stay calm. Because that house originally belonged to my parents, and now it's under my brother's name. What are you talking about? In fact, the house we had been living in was one my brother had lent to me. My husband and in-laws had misunderstood, thinking it was a house that I had inherited from my parents. That's why they thought they could live there, as if it was their own. This situation dates back to when my father-in-law died. When I informed my brother about the funeral, he was still abroad. But when I mentioned the funeral, he said he would come back and attend. We met for the first time in years before the funeral. Hillary, are you okay? You look so worn out. What happened? Well, actually, it had been years since I had seen my brother, but he was shocked at how different I looked. Concerned, he approached me, and I honestly explained everything that had happened. What a thing to say. I won't forgive anyone who hurts my dear sister. His expression was stern, and he clenched his fists, shaking with anger. Hillary, don't worry. I'll take care of it. Thank you. Thus, with my brother's support, I was able to firm up my decision to divorce my husband. Now, get back to the present. I was talking with my mother-in-law on the phone, and I decided to reveal a certain fact. I've decided to live near my brother from now on. What? As I said this, my mother-in-law sounded shocked. It seemed that Tom was nearby, and taking over from the silent mother-in-law, he spoke up. Hillary, don't say things like that. Let's start over. I'm reflecting on it all. What are you saying all of a sudden? It's absurd. I can't even consider getting back together with you. I'm serious. I'm your husband, after all. Can't you trust what your husband says? What made him think he could be trusted after all the trust-destroying actions he had taken? Moreover, the situation had changed since before, and I decided to tell him about it. Listen, Tom. Another reason it's impossible to get back together is that I'm not in the US right now. What? What do you mean? As I spoke coldly, Tom anxiously asked for clarification. Do you think my brother is permanently back in the US to live? Isn't that what it means when you say you're going to live near your brother? He had interpreted it that way, thinking according to his convenience without being told anything. I was really astonished at his way of thinking. I've changed my nationality and moved to Cancun. Huh? You moved to Cancun? Yes, that's right. My brother is in the US only temporarily. He didn't come back to live here permanently. No way. As I spoke, Tom sounded surprised and shocked. There was no longer any reason to continue the conversation with him. I decided to tell him one last thing. Right now, my brother is staying in the US to handle various procedures, so please ask him about anything else. After saying that, I ended the conversation and hung up. Later, I was able to hear from my brother about Tom. He did enough to deserve a divorce, yet he hesitated to sign the divorce papers. I wondered how stubborn he could be. Really? But in the end, did he sign the divorce papers? He wouldn't have signed them if it were just up to me to convince him. I had no choice but to involve a lawyer. The lawyer you hired was very competent, wasn't he? That makes me feel relieved. As I asked, my brother nodded and told me that everything had smoothly progressed, with the divorce papers signed. Then my brother sold our family home. When asked where the three of them ended up after losing their home, the response was like this. After I sold the family home, they had nowhere to live. Now, they're living in a rundown apartment, all three of them. Wow, that's tragic, but it's really just a case of reaping what they sowed. While it seemed tragic to hear about their situation, there was no room for sympathy. If they had remained as kind as they were before the marriage, things would not have ended this way. Ryan could have grown up properly too. It's too late to say such things now, but it's good that you had been recording videos on your smartphone and writing diaries. I really wish they would have reformed without my having to do such things. But maybe they would never have changed regardless. At least, that's what I think. After all, they have caused you so much suffering. What you did was hardly a punishment. True to my brother's words, I had been writing in a diary and secretly recording videos on my smartphone about the things my husband and in-laws did to me. When I submitted these as evidence to the lawyer, they were acknowledged as powerful evidence. As a result, I succeeded in obtaining compensation from my husband and mother-in-law. After that, peaceful days returned to me. I have started working again at a travel agency in Cancun, introduced by my brother. I endured a lot of hardships in the past, but from now on, I want to cherish myself more and lead a joyful and happy life.